By now you've probably heard that Japan is struggling with overtourism. Actually, it's not that simple. So I went to Japan again recently and travelled from Fukuoka to Kyoto whilst avoiding most major cities. I say, as I just said, we went to Kyoto and Fukuoka. And during this time, there were days we literally did not see a single tourist. I'm sure you already know where this is going, but let's get into the problem, the reasons, the solutions, and I'll even give you a few cool places to add to your trip. First off, Japan is great. The food, the culture, the history, eating onigiri for breakfast every single day from 7-Eleven. But mix that with Japan reopening really late compared to a lot of countries after COVID. The weekend gem making it just generally cheaper to visit. Social media making every hidden gem not so hidden. Basically, Japan is experiencing a tourism boom like never before. In 2024, the country welcomed nearly 37 million visitors, a 15% increase from 2019. While this is great for the economy, it's causing significant challenges, especially in popular destinations like Tokyo. Kyoto and Osaka, an extremely popular tourist route dubbed the Kyoto, and if you didn't know, it's a really old city, receives over 50 million visitors annually, overwhelming the city's infrastructure and impacting the quality of life for residents. But isn't the problem really about too many tourists? Or is it that everyone is flocking to the same place? I think you can guess my answer. Overcrowding isn't just annoying, it's making life harder for locals. Imagine having strangers peeking into your home or blocking your way to work just for cute pics. Or imagine trying to take a cute pic and there's someone trying to get to work. Japan also has a tourist etiquette problem, which is being amplified by the sheer number of tourists. Common complaints are noise, large luggage on trains, and eating whilst walking. As someone who loves to pick up breakfast on the go, if I'm in a hurry, I really struggle with the don't eat and walk rule. There are exceptions to this, like you can stand outside the convenience store that you bought your food from and eat it there. Anyway, Japan is trying to fix the tourism problem. Kyoto is banning photography in certain areas, mainly Gion, which I would not go to after 9 AM anyway, unless you enjoy fighting crowds, in which case go. I recently read that Ghibli Park has had to tell people to stop taking weird photos with the statues, which is horrendous, and local governments are pushing for people to visit less crowded spots. But will it work? The main issue is that everyone goes to the same places, which I completely understand. There is a reason everyone goes to these places. Basically, we need to visit a few different places. Most tourists tend to visit the same few prefectures. According to the Japan National Tourism Organization, Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto consistently rank at the top for visit rates by foreign nationals. That is not a surprise at all. This concentration leads to overcrowding in these areas, while other beautiful regions remain largely unvisited. Prefectures like Tottori and Shimane see far fewer visitors, despite offering unique cultural and natural attractions. This imbalance not only puts pressure on popular destinations, but also means missed opportunities for lesser-known areas. To address this, Japan is promoting off-the-beaten-path tourism, encouraging visitors to explore regions beyond the usual spots. Efforts include enhancing infrastructures in rural areas and creating promotional campaigns to showcase the diverse attractions across the country. I am interested in whether anyone has seen any of these campaigns, because sometimes when I'm on the train, I see in Japanese campaigns to get people to go to other prefectures, but I never see them in English, like aimed at tourists. Anyway, let's make this more personal and talk about the areas I've seen that get overcrowded, tips for visiting, and alternatives. Japanese public transport is generally good unless you go really into the countryside, and then it's not even bad, it's just that it might be infrequent. Therefore, it's easy to go and explore. Google Maps is quite accurate for those of you who want to keep it simple. Train tickets can also be a bit confusing, like how you need to buy a second ticket for limited express trains and how sometimes a limited express train has a special name and you don't even know it's a limited express train. A tip I'd recommend is to fly out of a different airport. Most airlines now offer multi-city tickets for about the same price. Book your ticket into Tokyo out of Fukuoka, Osaka, Hiroshima instead of paying to go back to Tokyo and spending the day on the trip. If it's a smaller airport, you'll probably have a layover, but it's still easier than booking a separate ticket back to Tokyo and offers more protection if your flight is late. Anyway, let's see some alternative places. You can go to Fujinomiya instead of Kawaguchiko. When I visited Fujinomiya in spring last year, there were very few tourists. The streets were empty, the coffee shops were really cute, and the view of Mount Fuji was fab. Get Google ready because I'm going to be saying some places over the next few minutes for you to look up. You can see Fuji from Tanuki Lake, which is near Fujinomiya, or Kariyado no Gebasakura, rather than fighting crowds at Kawaguchiko, and it's on the way to Kyoto/Osaka. Go later in the spring, so if you miss the sakura, you can catch Ibaraki and Ashikaga. We did this as a day trip, and I'll leave the company below. This is becoming more popular, but I still recommend it for now. If you're in Tokyo to see the sakura, I recommend going to the Tama River in Denan-chofu. This area is quiet and peaceful with a few food stalls in the spring. I also don't worry about it overcrowding as much because it's a bit far out. Actually, I really like Nikko, and if you can go on a weekday, go for it. My alternative to Nikko is Matsumoto and Kiso. I believe these are actually becoming more popular too. I'd recommend Matsumoto and heading over to Naraijuku for a hiking day in Kiso. Kusatsu Onsen, not as an alternative to anything. This town might be a bit difficult if you don't speak any Japanese, especially if you've never used an onsen before, as I noticed most signs were only in Japanese. If you're already heading up to Nagano, Kusatsu is a great detour. It could technically be done as a really long day trip if you enjoyed a ride, but I would probably stay the night there. Shirahige instead of Miyajima. As an alternative, Shirahige is near Kyoto and you can do it in a half-day trip. There's tons of cute, quiet towns on the way, and also I actually really love Miyajima too. But if you go really, really, really early or stay on the island. If you like cats, you could also make this into a longer day trip from Kyoto. Oki Island at the top here is apparently an island inhabited by many cats, so you could do a little loop like I have very expertly drawn out for you here. And Uji instead of Kyoto, technically in Kyoto, but let's get into this. I love Kyoto, it's possibly my favourite city, but it's overcrowded. Do a day there and use it as a base for other things, but I don't recommend spending 3 days fighting crowds at Gion, Arashiyama, Fushimi. Another option is using Kyoto as your base and doing one thing really early in the morning every day and then moving on. So for example, Arashiyama at 6 AM and then moving on to Amano Hashidate or Kinosaki Onsen. General rule, if it's after 9 AM at a tourist hotspot, the tour buses will start to arrive. Okay, Uji is the home of matcha in Japan. You'll find tea ceremonies, streets lined with matcha goodies, and it is very rarely overcrowded. Amano Hashidate, lovely views, not too busy, and serviced by the Kyotango dining trains. Maizuru, really nice and peaceful to walk around the warehouses. It would be a long day, but you could combine it with Amano Hashidate and use the Kyotango between the two. Kinosaki Onsen is becoming more popular since I first visited 10 years ago, but oh my gosh, this town is beautiful. It's my absolute favourite. You could do it as a day trip in combo with Amano Hashidate or an overnight trip. I would do an overnight trip. It's fab, but it is a bit expensive. Tottori, did you know that Tottori is one of the least visited prefectures in Japan? You could do this as a day trip from Kinansaki or Osaka, even Kyoto if you really wanted to. The main draw is the sand dunes, and as someone who spent a lot of their childhood playing in sand dunes, these ones were something else. More of a tip, if you take the Sannin line down to Fukuoka over a few days, you'll see very beautiful views and very few tourists. We went days without seeing any. Unotsu Onsen instead of Ine, quick stop in a small village. This is a quiet village in the Sannin line. That deserves a little stopover. It's quite small, and when we visited, there were so few foreign tourists that the hotel owner spotted us from the window and waved at us so we wouldn't miss the building. Probably our names on the booking gave it away. Once a silver mining town, it's now the only onsen in Japan declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Okunoshima, Bunny Island, heading to Hiroshima from Osaka. How about stopping at an island full of bunnies on the way? Did I mention it's not crowded? It's a small island in Japan, once a secret World War II chemical weapons site. Now it's a tourist spot known for its wild rabbits and poison gas museum. We're heading south and we're going to Beppu. I'm not the biggest Fukuoka fan, it's just another city to me, I'm sorry Fukuoka. Instead, I'd go to Beppu, a town rich in hot springs and literally steaming. From here, you can also visit Yufuin's Ghibli town. Also, apparently there's an Attack on Titan wall near here. I didn't see it, but yeah. Again, instead of Fukuoka, I'm so sorry Fukuoka. This city, Nagasaki, is adorable. That's my only word for it. It's so cute and quaint. I'm not sure I could spend a long time here, but I 100% recommend. It is just lovely. And of course, it's worth visiting for the history. Fuji is Japan's tallest volcano, Aso is Japan's widest volcano. This area in general is not very visited, and you can also stop over at Kurakawa. Oh my gosh, it was stunning. Look up pictures of it. The lights over the river at nighttime, yes. Okay, I'm a big believer that most places are popular because they're good. Not all, but most. So there's a reason we all want to go to Kyoto. There's a reason we all want to go to Osaka. Like, I'm not blaming anyone for wanting to go to these places. I love going back to Kyoto. I just love Kyoto. God, I'm probably like ruining this. I'm like, sold Kyoto to everyone. But there's literally places in Kyoto I avoid now. So here's my challenge/recommendation. Try to fill 1 to 3 days for every week of your trip with lesser visited activities. That way you get to take some of the burden off overrun destinations, help local communities, and maybe find your own hidden gems. The more people that visit lesser visited areas, the more money that funnels into these areas, and the more they can accommodate tourists. And I'm not saying change the area, but I'll never complain if a cute coffee cafe kind of pops up in the countryside town I'm visiting. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you found this video informative or useful or just anything. If you did, please let me know, and I will make more like this.